Hey, Flynn here with Tier 1. I'm here with William Crofford, also from Tier 1. Tell us what you did this weekend.
Hey, so I just went X2 at the Nashville Regional this last weekend. We came 20th, sadly, but not the best weekend, but still wanted to go ahead and show you guys what we're on. So this week, I basically played Branded, and this is a relatively straightforward build. We're playing three copies of Aluber, one copy of Tragedy, one copy of Adlib, and then, of course, our newest Despia monster, Guiding Quem the Virtuous. Moving on to our more straightforward Albies and Friends, we're playing one copy of Blazing Cartesia, one copy of Spriggan's Kit, one copy of Tri-Brigade McCourier, one copy of Albion the Shrouded Dragon, and then we're playing our kind of two honorary friends, Bestial Lebellion and Bestial Sorneer. Finally, we'll go ahead and move on to our soft bricks of sorts. We're playing two copies of The Fallen of Albies, and then one copy of Dark Magician. We'll scooch on over to our spells. I'm on one copy of Foolish Burial and one copy of Goldsark. It's basically just more consistency tools, right? We want to be able to get to branded fusion as much as humanly possible. So we're playing three copies. We're also on three copies of Branded Opening. This card has honestly gotten a whole lot better. Now, of course, it not only gets us to Branded Fusion, but if we already have Fusion access, or maybe we've already opened the Fusion, we can grab Branded Opening and use it to get to Guiding Quem, which kind of helps us push through Ash Blossom and do a little bit more with our boards. We're also on three copies of Nadir Servant. This is a cool card because it is both an extender, where you can use this to dump instead of Mirror Jade, or you can use this in tandem with Mirror Jade to put more stuff in the graveyard. And then, of course, since Guiding Quem is also a Dogmatica monster, we can get her as well instead of just having to fish for the Fallen of Albaz. And then last but not least, we're playing three copies of Fusion Deployment. We want to get to Cartesia as much as possible, but it can also, when going second, get us to the Fallen of Albaz, and in some real weird cases, get us to the Dark Magician as well. Next up is our sort of like techie spells and traps. We're playing one copy of Branded in White, one copy of Branded in High Spirits, one copy of Branded Lost, one copy of Branded in Red, and one copy of Branded Retribution. This is a very solid card, specifically in tandem with Nadir Servant. There's a very good line that you kind of use this with. And in some pinches, of course, it also gets us to Branded Fusion as well. As long as we have a workable monster, it can get us to Kit, which then can immediately get us to Branded Fusion. The last thing we've got in our main board is we're running our sort of like going second cards. I'm a big fan in Branded with generally playing very hard going second cards. We don't have a whole lot of generic space, so trying to use what we can so that when we draw our sixth card, it's very powerful. So I am playing two copies of Jizukuru, the Star Destroying Kaiju. And I know I just said we're not playing hand traps, but Droll is honestly a little too good to not play right now.
Yeah, you gotta be playing draw right now.
And then last but not least, three copies of Super Poly. So, in our extra, we're playing two copies of Mirror Jade, two copies of two copies of Albion the Branded Dragon, two copies of Lebellion the Searing Dragon, one copy of Sprint, and one copy of Rinbrum. Now, we're not normally making Rinbrum, but its graveyard effect is very powerful, especially in tandem with Sprint. So we can either dump this out with Mirror Jade or dump this out with Nadir Servant. And then as long as we have an Albaz in the graveyard, we can basically summon out the Albaz to fuse with anything to make Sprint, even if it wouldn't be something that would normally be like either an extra deck target or a light or dark. We're playing one copy of Quertus and one copy of Gran. So Quertus is our only real Grand target. We can also grab Guiding Quem out of the main deck as well, because she's a Dogmatica monster. I really like Lulu. Lulu is a very good card, but for where I was at with this build, the fact that Quertus is a fusion monster that I can fuse with, it just came up a lot. I needed and wanted that sort of just generic fusion monster that I can make with a Despia in any light or dark. And it definitely came up. Next, moving to super poly targets, Dragostapelia, Mud Dragon, and Garura. We really have to play both of these. If you're on one, you're just not getting enough coverage from super poly. Dragostapelia is a card we'd play even if we didn't have the super poly, but it can be very nice, and this is a monster if you have super poly in the mirror. Then, of course, last but not least, we've got Red Eyes Dark Dragoon and Chimera. Let's move to the sideboard. I'm on 2 copies of Magnemite, 1 copy of Baldrake, 2 copies of Ash Blossom, 3 copies of Kurakara, 1 copy of Performapal 5 Rainbow Magician, 2 copies of Dark Ruler No More, 1 copy of Thrust, 2 copies of Cosmic Cyclone, and finally 1 copy of Evenly Matched. And that's it for the deck.
All right, nice. So, yeah, is there anything major that you wish you could change or have done differently?
So, going forward, I think I'm going to try a slightly more radical build, where I'm going to try to really gut the engine as much as possible to try to fit a little more just generic cards and actually get up to that point where I can actually run some hand traps and not feel too bad about it. I'm looking at trying to get 12 hand traps into 42. There's some stuff I don't really want to get rid of, but by getting rid of it, it'll kind of help give me that space. And these are a couple of cards just in the main board that I think are going to go to kind of help me find that space. Yet again, kind of looking at the extra deck as well. Dragoon is insanely powerful. Super Poly is insanely powerful. And then, of course, the second copy of Lebellion is super handy. But I'd like to get a little more time testing with the newer cards. The new extra deck Albion is insane. Lulu is also very helpful. And even just being able to slot a copy of Titaniclad is not bad. So we'll kind of see where I wind up in the next couple of weeks, but I've definitely got some changes in mind.
All right. Well, solid deck profile. Shout out to Dank Ritual for sponsoring Tier 1 Gaming. Will you have any shout outs?
Pretty much just Tier 1 and Dank Ritual. You know, it's been great. I got to play on the map finally, and it's a dream.
All right. Well, thank you guys so much for watching, and we'll catch you on the next one.